Okay, look, don't get me wrong, I really like this kit. In my last video, I did this kit dirty by tossing it out. I mean, it's not like there's any other kit that goes beyond our expectations. Well, more like beyond global. How's it going, guys? Plastic Disasta here. Continuing on this RX-78-2 theme, the next kit we're going to look at is the high-grade RX-78-2 Beyond Global. This is a very special kit celebrating the 40th anniversary of Gunpla. Well, actually, this kit came out in 2020. I'm guessing Gunpla started out in 1980, and then 40 years later, look at this baby. Of course, the original Gundam is a perfect candidate because why not? Taking a look at the box art, we see the Gundam flying around in space with explosions going on in the background and Earth right behind it. This side of the box, it just shows how Bandai improves their articulation and proportions after 40 years. Next up, we have front and rear shot of the kit, and it just shows off the action poses. In this side of the box, we have more action poses and beautiful engineering. Cracking open the box, we got 5 bags of runners and a manual. Looking at the cover of the manual, we see a familiar pose. Checking the parts list, we are using all of them. Moving on back, we have more information on the Gundam plus familiar poses. If you guys want to read this, feel free to pause and do so. And moving on down, shows you the brief history of the RX-78-2 kit. And moving further down is a color guide if you're planning on painting it. Starting off with runner A is going to be a multicolored runner, and in case you didn't notice, the white and the blue is in a different shade. B1 and B2 is going to be more of the white parts. Runner C1 is going to be the gray parts for the beam rifle and the hand options, and sadly there is no runner C2. Runner D1 is going to be more of the white parts. Runner E1 is going to be a different shade of red parts. Runners F1 and F2 is going to be more of the gray parts. Beam saber effect parts, and you're gonna love this one, the sticker sheet, and of course you already know where this is gonna go, so there's no point in me covering the stickers. That's gonna be it for the unboxing. I can't wait to see how Bandai puts so much heart and soul into this model kit, because after 40 years, of course you're gonna expect something good. So I'm gonna put this together right now, and I'll see you guys right after. And here is the Beyond Global all put together, and when you're building this thing, it's not like you're building any other high grade. The build of this kit is very unique. I mean, look at the engineering. You got like bits of interface poking out. There is no seam lines. Even if there is, it could go as a detail. Color separation, perfection. Speaking of colors, yeah, it does look kind of weird with a different shade of white, blue, and red. I mean, the yellow is fine. It's just that I'm just not used to seeing this. I don't know, maybe after this review, it will start growing on me. And another negative thing I want to point out is the proportions. Like, everything is fine except for the legs. I have heard that it does look a little humanoid. Maybe if they make the lower legs a little buffer, it would be fine. That's about it for the out-of-box presentation. There's really not much to talk about. So, I'm going to work on this kit. I'll see you right after. And after, with a little bit of work, I put in some panel lighting, I top coated a few in a water slide decals just to enhance the kit. And there's really not much to work with in terms of like detail painting. Well, that's because I already told you that the color separation is really great on this one. So in other words, if you want a kit that requires minimal effort, this is the best one. Moving on with accessories, starting out with hand options. What you see in the kit are the beam saber holding hands, and next up you have a open palm hand for the left side. Next up you have a trigger finger hand, which I already attached to the beam rifle. And speaking of the beam rifle, you have a secondary handle that moves side to side, and the camera that moves side to side as well. And there's this little pig right here, which you could store it onto the back skirt. And next up you have a shield, which is my least favorite accessory. Now, hear me out on this one. The Gundam shield is not bad. The problem with this shield is that it ain't big enough. Like, let's bring in the Origin Gundam shield, for example. Now, if I compare it, it's a little too, well, I don't know why I said little, but it's just too small. I don't know, maybe I just prefer my shields with a little more beef to it, if you know what I'm saying. Now, there are a few ways that you can use this shield. The first one being you can pop off the handle and make it to like a collapse mode. You can put the handle back in, pull this wrist out, which reveals like a tiny little gap, and it just clips in. Now, this is my preferred mode, and you can also, take advantage of its rotation. I know I'm spoiling the articulation a little bit, but when you pull it out, it does reveal like another ball joint into the wrist, which allows it to rotate, so you can put it either under the arm or on the side of the arm. Another way you can use that is that if you want to make him just hold it, all you gotta do is just pop up the handle and attach it to the upper part, and make sure the handle is sticking out, and he can hold it. Now, in case if it doesn't ring any bells, if you guys own the entry grade RX-78-2, the way how he uses the shield is going to be quite similar like how the Beyond Global uses it. Just something I want to point out. Finally, if you want to store the shield, first you're going to take this piece off of the shield and use this peg and connect it to the backpack so you can store the shield, and this is how it looks. And of course, what would the Gundam be without beam saber effect parts? So that's going to be it for the accessories. Let's move on to articulation. Starting off, the head is on a ball joint, and you also have some movement on the neck which can rock forward and backwards. For the shoulders, it does swing forward, which is really nice. The arm can move up this high, which is amazing. Of course, it is on a ball joint. You get a bicep swivel, double bend on the elbow, and I already mentioned there is a ball joint right in there on the forearm, and you also get a ball joint on the wrist. And the cool part is you do get some really nice expressive movements. You do get just a bit of an ab crunch, and you get some side to side movement, and there's also a ball joint on the waist, so it does everything what a ball joint does. Onto the waist, the front skirt can move up this far, side skirt can move out this far, way up, and as for the back skirt, it moves out. If you guys look closely, there is this cool leg mechanism which reminds me of a 30-minute mission kits, anyways, which allows for a kick that goes this far up and can move back this far out. And as for splits, it could go a little bit over that. And you also get another joint on the thigh, which gives you more leg articulation. You get a thigh swivel, double bend on the knee, nice armor separation. The ankle armor does move up and down, and as for foot, it can go up this far, and it kind of reminds me of the GM's flip-flop joint. It can move back this far. There's also rotation on the ankle, and as for the pivot, it's not really much of a pivot, just only a bit. And as for the backpack, well, nothing really moves. Overall, the articulation on this kit is actually quite impressive. I just hope that these joints will last long enough, because this is plastic rubbing against plastic. Size comparisons, here it is right next to the standard size RX-72 and the RX-78-2 Gundam. Of course, the Beyond Global is a standard size. Now, let me ask you this, out of all three, which one you think looks the best? Except here it is right next to the Sharazaku 2 Origin version. So Bandai, when are you gonna make the Sharazaku 2 Beyond Global? Finally, here it is right next to Optimus Prime and Godzilla. So that's gonna be it for the size comparisons. Let's move on to my final thoughts. Moving on to my final thoughts. Overall, yeah, it's a pretty great kit. But here's where I have a problem with it. It's like pretty pricey, maybe $25 or $30, correct me down below. And that's more expensive than the high grade Revive version. High grade Revive version, yeah, it does have more accessories and the articulation is actually really fluid. However, the Beyond Global, it does have more engineering, which is understandable. Now, this is going to be a difficult choice for me, because if you like what you see on the Beyond Global, again, go for it. But if you just want something nice and cheap, I say go with the Revive. Or if you're crazy like me, just get them both. Alright, so that about wraps up the review right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more content, be sure to subscribe, and don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.